Hi again. So, continuing to our energy discussions, you can already see we have covered a lot, like types of energy, kinetic potential. We saw the subtypes of these energies, like as you can see on the screen. We saw conduction, convection, and radiation. Yeah, quite bad drawing, but if you go through those lectures, you will understand what all is happening here. We saw energy transfer, energy transformation, and we saw Sankey diagram. Okay, so a lot has been covered. Today's is more of a kind of practical, you can say practical application. Like we will study how First Nations people would ignite fire. Fire is a thermal energy, right? Um, and it's also a surviving skill. Let's say if you go in jungle and if you're lost and you want to make food or maybe to save yourself from animals, you want to ig- like burn the fire or it's very cold, you want some heat there. And how if you don't have any standard mechanisms like lighter or other ways to fire, how the First Nation people used natural things and did fire, like created fire. Okay, so why it's important to learn is because it teaches us in nature that how natural things can help us build fire, and it also shows us how this energy is actually created, right? Um, and then it's part of syllabus, so we definitely want to cover it. Okay. All right. So traditional fire starting methods before we go into how it works. And later I will also if you go in this YouTube video description, I have pasted two small videos, 3 minutes and 1 minutes, where you see actual person doing this. Though I have created quite good graphics today, so you'll get a gist of it. But if you want to really see how they are doing it, if you want to do it with your parents' supervision in your own backyard, maybe you can give it a try, but don't try yourself alone. All right. So first we'll see what is a fire. A fire is a chemical reaction, right? Um, and it's generally between like chemical reaction between what? Between two or more substances, right? And one of them being wood or the material which you want to burn, primarily because we are burning wood in today's lecture. So we will today's lesson we will take the primary material is wood, but otherwise any other material. And oxygen is very much required. Yeah, without oxygen there is no fire. So for example, if sometimes you would have seen to extinguish a fire, we cover it up, which removes all the oxygen from there and the fire extinguishes. So that's one way to remove the fire because fire needs oxygen. So what is fire? It's a chemical reaction between wood or other material and oxygen in the air. Okay. That releases chemical energy as heat and light. Yes, fire, you stand near fire, you'll feel heat, you'll see the light. So that's what is happening. Chemical potential energy converting into heat and light. Cool. Now, almost all fires, when they start, they use some kind of friction. So today, whatever fires we will be studying, the fire generating four methods that First Nation people used will all involve friction. So what is friction? Like when you are driving, let's say your bike, and you are rubbing those tires against the floor, which is trying to stop your bicycle, right? Um, we already know that is friction. The friction is basically the force between two objects, okay, or surfaces, um, which push against each other, right? We learned this in year seven. What is friction? It's a force. And there's one more special term here, pyrophytic. Whenever this pyro word comes, it means it is related with fire. Okay, so pyro is your that keyword that whenever there is pyro in a word, it means it is something to do with fire. Now, why this word here is because we are talking about how First Nation people used fire. So one of the mechanism was that on the countryside land. Okay, so let's see if we go here. Let me quickly draw a countryside land. Okay, there is a lot of plants, bushes, right? So let's say this is my drawing of bush, and in hot sun they will dry up, right? You would have seen a lot of dry if you go maybe outside your city and into the vast land in the center of the continent, you'll see a lot of like this kind of dry vegetation. Now, when these are dry, animals won't come, right? Because they want green food. Green leaves is what they want to eat, kangaroos, other cattles. So they will go away. So what First Nations people would do is do a controlled fire. So they will burn it. Okay. So burn all this vegetation, which will remove this, all of it, and will generate new ones because now there is enough um, space for this to grow. They get fresh oxygen, fresh water. Earlier, this dry ones was stopping all of that. And then when this green plants grow, the animals would come, right? This is a cow, let's say, or a kangaroo would come, and they will come here, and then they can be hunted for food. So these plants are called pyrophytic because they adapted to fire. Yes, they can still regrow even though the whole surface was burnt, but they will regrow. So these are pyrophytic plants, just for you to know the terminology and why there is a controlled fire done sometimes to regrow the vegetation in that area. Otherwise, it will just remain dry and no use to anybody. Okay. Quickly moving on from these terms to some more terms which are very easy to understand, and we'll also see these so you will be able to make out. Okay, so first thing is ember. So ember, what is ember? It's like when you have to generate a fire. If you would have seen in maybe some movies where they are rubbing two stones and there is a spark, okay, and that initial spark is called ember, basically. Okay, and it's generally hot because it generates fire. It's glowing. It can be a piece of small wood or a small something, but that's general, just first spark. Okay, so that's ember. Then this first spark must go in a small ball of something which is called tinder bundle. Okay, so before giving it to the big pile of grass, we make up something small. So we burn from the spark, can be able to burn this small thing, which is called tinder bundle. And then we put this tinder bundle in the main place where we want to ignite. So maybe in a piece of bigger set of woods or hay, where we'll put this tinder bundle. So what is tinder bundle made up of? A small amount of fine dry grass. It could be animal dung like kangaroo dried poop, it could be dry leaves, but generally it is always very small, like this you can see in the image. So ember is first put in this, which burns this small bundle, and then this small bundle is placed in the big bundle. So every fire is like which we are going to study today goes like this: ember, tinder bundle, and then the tinder bundle placed in the main thing which you want to burn, like wood, pile of wood or hay. So tinder bundle is this, a bundle of dry leaves or animal dung or dry something, dry grass, okay, or any other material which can catch fire. Cool. So with that, we will learn our first method today, fire drill. As you can see, it has drill, and all the fire will be using friction. So these are your keywords to remember all of them. Everyone will remember, everyone will use friction, everyone will have ember, everything will have tinder bundle, everything will have the main thing which you want to burn. So these are common across all the method. Now fire drill method is quite easy. Actually, all the methods are quite easy. As you can see, it will use natural resources. There are very few of them which are involved, and everything involves friction. So drill means drilling. So now in the nature, all you can find is wood to drill against each other. Okay. So so what happens here is, see, you see a flat wood. Okay. So you put a flat wood in the bottom, and it could be a tree branch which is flat. And then you put another tree branch or another piece of wood on top with a point. Like, this image doesn't show a pointed stick, but generally you cut it with something and make it pointed, like to be able to drill. And then you use your hand, it's my camera, yeah, to like drill. Let's say this is stick, and you drill it inside this soft wood which is in the flat place. So when you keep drilling, see, I'm drilling so hard, let's assume these are wood, and it will pick a small spark here. Because of the friction, this point will become very hot and will generate ember, which you can then put it in a tinder bundle, and that will make the fire. So let's see. So flat piece of softwood, which is called a base, and a long stick made up of hard or softwood. So this is that long piece of wood. Drill a small hole first with the pointed surface, and then place the blunt end, which is the pointed end of the drill stick, into this hole. And then, because this can then stabilize, yes, because when you will move, it will not go here or there, it will just be on focused on one place. Because when you focus on one place and rub it, it will just keep hitting that same area. Okay. And then you drill. See, this is like with the hand they are drilling, but you can use a something else like a string to drill it fast. You can tie a end of rope here and then drill using that rope. But here, let's say if we are just spinning it hand front and back, see, here it started to bring this black color, right? It's of trying to like generate that ember like a spark. And this wood chips here, they can act as tinder bundle in the bottom. Cool. So you must apply enough downward force to increase friction between the stick and the base. The drill stick is twirled quickly between both hands, and that is actually doing this kinetic energy. Yes, it's moving, right? Then this energy is transferred to the spinning stick from your hand to the stick, which also moves to and fro, generating friction, and friction generates heat, which will give us tiny spark. See, the spark came. Um, and this is the ember formation. Basically, any spark is ember. So rubbing the stick between the base converts kinetic energy into heat energy. So energy transformation. Okay. A small gap near the indentation gathers the heated glowing sawdust. Sawdust is this very, very thin woods, and the buildup becomes a glowing ember, which is then transferred to a dry tinder bundle, and that's all. That's the fire drill method. Easy, right? Just drilling on a flat surface. That's fire drill method. Next is fire saw method. Now you would have seen saw, which is used to cut things, right? Now if I use one wood and another wood and just do a saw method instead of drill, so saw, yes, like uh, yep, saw, and then that will also, you try to rub a pencil on your hand, you'll feel a little warm, yes, which is friction. So if two rough surfaces like two woods, they do a saw like procedure, it will generate the fire. So that's the fire saw method. It's that easy. So saw motion. Okay, so let's see what are the steps. You first maybe split the branch, which will create two of them so that you can rub against each other. Okay, so create a controlled split at one end of the um, to hold the tinder. Okay, then you put, when you have cut the split, you can put some tinder here. Okay, so you can see it already in the image. Pack fine, which can be like dry tinder, always dry tinder. Basically, you don't burn a wet tinder. Uh, then you do a saw motion using this, so back and forth. So use a sharp, which can be a sharp edge hardwood. It could be a boomerang, um, which can be used. And this will, when you do that saw method, it will generate the heat. So the saw moves back and forth inside the split. See here. Okay. And it's like cutting, you are trying to cut the wood, but basically you are generating that friction, which will be, so the contact between the hardwood saw and the split branch will create a resistance, which is friction. Friction converts motion into heat, um, and it's concentrated in one single area. Okay. With enough heat, a small ember is formed, which can be put in a tinder bundle and the fire is generated. So saw motion, drill motion. So fire saw method, fire drill method. Then the ember then ignites the tinder, which is common in everything. The saw, which can be a boomerang, could be a wooden knife, could be a kulaman, or another multi-purpose tool. Okay. So that's the saw method. Third one is plow method. Now, I don't know if you have heard this word plow. In farms, those trucks have those spiky things which drill across the land. You would have seen some such videos. Yes, those large trucks pulling that land, and then you grow the seed. This is called plowing. In rural places, there were some cattles or ox, which will bulls, which will have this kind of like thing to plow the land instead of trucks, and then you can put seeds in that. So plow is like if in a softwood, let's say this is softwood, if you do a hole like a scratch, which will make a like a gutter kind of view, and then you do a friction motion just in that gutter, uh, the plowing motion. That's, and if it will generate friction, and that's the fire flow method. We'll just see soon some images. So see here, there is a pointed stick. This stick which you were earlier drilling with that pointed edge. Now, if you just have this plowing motion, which you see in the flat wood, there is a this kind of scratch that you have created, and then you keep plowing, 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 plowing. It will generate the heat, and this is called fire plow method to start the fire. Same friction method, same ember, same tinder bundle, same finally everything. It's rubbing between two woods. It's just the way you rub defines a new method. Okay. So fire is generated by rubbing wood against wood in a straight back and forth motion, like this, like this. Yep, again and again in that same single gutter or plow. Okay. And then materials used are basically flat wooden base, straight wooden stick, and you use it as the plow. Okay. Cut a straight groove along the base, position the stick in the groove, and prepare tinder to catch the ember. That's the fire plow. Okay. Rubbing motion and heat production. So when the end of the stick is rubbed back and forth along this groove, this repeated motion creates friction, which creates heat, and then umber is produced, which then you can put it in a tinder bundle. Like this is the tinder bundle being ignited now, and then you can use it to generate a bigger fire. Okay. The last is percussion method. So far we have done fire drill, fire saw, fire plow, and last one is percussion method, and we'll be done. Percussion is the oldest form, maybe, which we would have seen in some movies where Neanderthals were generating fire with two stones rubbing like this, which at least many people would have heard of. Um, so in this percussion method, we create by striking two stones like this, generating that friction, that spark ember. Okay, so creating fire by striking two stones to produce super hot fragments. Okay, and generally one piece is flint stone and the other piece is iron stone. Now these are special stones which has maybe some metallic properties which help generate that spark quickly. You can do it with normal stone, but I think either the stone will break, um, or it won't generate that enough friction. So these special stones makes it easier to generate it. Okay. So generally, First Nation people who had this flint stone available, generally in special places in Australia, they would use this kind of method. Other people who didn't have flint stone would use the other two, three methods that we discussed earlier. Okay. So one piece is flint, one is ironstone. Then the flint is hit against the ironstone. This creates friction, which causes tiny shards of ironstone to break off. These hot shards, shards means pieces, will break off. These shards become very hot because of the friction. Okay. And the hot shards are then placed into tinder bundle. Same story goes. So this is basically the percussion method. Cool. Before I conclude this, consider paying for the lecture. Any amount, $5 or more will do. There's a link. When you do that, I'll send you notes. So you can see one of the note today, which is how to explain. So in a exam, if someone asks you like explain the fire drill way. So one is to write few lines, but one way is to structure the answer much better. So where you can start with lines like the first one, that what materials are required. Okay, that is how you can give a structure to your answer. You can do step by step, impress your teachers more. So a flat piece of softwood plus is used as a base. A long stick is used as a drill, then the blunt end of the drill. So then you explain, once you have explained what is the material, it's like a recipe. Yes. So we start with what materials, what ingredients will be used. Then you say step one is this, that put this end of the stick of the drill. And then the second step is put downward force. The third is explain which energy is being transferred from kinetic to heat energy. That will give you extra points. And then you can say about Ember, use those vocabulary which we discussed, Ember, Tinder bundle, and structure your answer this. So I have prepared these notes, and for this lesson, I'll send you the notes. And yeah, so yeah, I think we are at the end. We learned 4 ways to produce fire, which was primarily used by First Nation people. And you saw some transfer of energy, you saw some friction application, how this energy can then be used for maybe making the food, or for warmth. It can also act as surviving skills for yourself if you end up in such a situation, or just for fun in your camp, you can just try it out, okay, with parent supervision. And happy learning. Thank you.